welcome to the 12 folks in the audience for this month's community call. So as a reminder, we do this every month in order to inform the Hummingbot community of what the foundation is doing and all the technical changes that we're making to the Hummingbot framework, which are upcoming in the new release, as well as other kind of community-based programs we do, like Bounties. We talk about Botcamp, our educational affiliate, as well as some of the top issues that the community is reporting. And overall, we want to try to basically provide the monthly forum for the community to interact with us, tell us about any of the things that they want us to do, and participate in the governance process of this open source community. All right, so let's get started. And let me go into what's coming in the 2.5 release that will be released in early April. You can always monitor, first of all, what's happening in the pull request status board. So that's a public project on the Hummingbot GitHub, which has the pull requests that have been merged into the development branch. What was released last month in the last release. A couple that we're really excited about is a new position held feature in the strategy v2 framework. This is a really important feature in order to really take Hummingbot to the next level as a professional market making framework, because most market makers have this notion of kind of like this held inventory notion once you're running lots of bots, because invariably you wind up in a situation where you have some type of running bot, but in addition, you also, that bot and maybe other bots that are running constantly adding to your bag or kind of, consuming or removing assets from your overall held bag. And so it's kind of like having a notion of like kind of active assets versus held assets, I think is an important notion in a professional market making system. Our CTO Fede has been hard at work, kind of like engineering this principle into the V2 framework. So now we have this notion of position held. It's basically a global set of positions. I think, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Fede, but I think it tracks both like spot balances, but also kind of like positions on a perpetual futures exchange that's held as well. So you can track like both types of kind of like like kind of unrealized positions as well as the kind of unrealized P&L. There's some kind of like tie-ins to the control that they use for it and everything. Fede is also working on a new market making controller that uses this positions held feature, and it's designed to kind of basically be a drop-in replacement for the pure market making strategy that we had in V1. I think this market making controller will be, I think, very popular because it kind of modernizes the V1 strategy, and I think it uses kind of all the new kind of bolts and whistles we've added to the V2 framework. So we're also very excited to start demoing what these kind of strategies can do and advantages over the previous strategies, because I think these new strategies are capable of deploying many more orders at a time, managing them, and also is designed to be more scalable. So you can run 10, 20 of these new V2 strategies in a single configuration, in various configurations, and have a single bot manageable. So I think overall, in terms of scalability and helping people implement a real professional grade market making strategy, I think we've come a long way. And I think this positions held feature, along with a new market making controller, will hopefully serve as a good demo of what Hummingbot is now capable of. In addition, I want to give a shout out to Memento, one of our longtime community members, who's been helping with a core environment upgrade that is in a pull request that should be merged in the V2 in the 2.5 release as well. So this environment upgrade is going to help Hummingbot basically use all the core environment basically upgrade the kind of dependencies that Hummingbot has. It builds on top of the upgrade that was done in the previous version, upgrading to Pydantic and removing the deprecated Telegram integration. I know some people have been asking about a Telegram integration that was removed. So because it was deprecated and it was using basically this older version of an unsupported version of Telegram, and for that and also for safety purposes, we felt it was better to be removed. But we are planning to add it back in. I think there's already a pull request from a community member. We still have an ongoing refactor. This is the part I'm kind of working on with Hummingbot Gateway, basically refactoring the Gateway DEX middleware so that it's more flexible, so it can handle different types of DEXs, both concentrated liquidity as well as standard, and potentially also interacting, so they can also interface with more types of DEX protocols. But we also recognize a need to support existing legacy gateway connectors like PancakeSwap and Uniswap and Trader Joe's, etc., while this ongoing refactor is happening, because of how large Gateway is and how tightly integrated it is with certain aspects of Hummingbot. I think doing the refactor and making kind of like kind of adding new connectors under the new standard, and the changes needed kind of means that we kind of we have to break compatibility with the old ones. But what we did was we've created a new branch of Hummingbot called Gateway 2.2. So this new branch of Hummingbot, we'll keep it updated with the development branch and the main branches. But this branch is designed to be compatible with the version of Gateway called 2.2, which includes all the other connectors that the Gateway had at the time. PancakeSwap and has all the other legacy ones. So I think for people who want to use those old connectors, I think that will be a good option. You can just use that branch of Hummingbot and the older version of Gateway. In the new version of Hummingbot, we'll keep the new version of Hummingbot that was in development integrated with the new version of Gateway, which is currently 2.5. So 2.5 will have the Solana, Jupiter, Radium, and Meteor connectors under the new standard. So that I think will create a good template for anyone who wants to add another connector and maybe using or adding doing the same thing to the Ethereum connectors. And it'll have like schemas for basically three types of like DEX interactions. One is a basic interaction where you're just doing a swap. Another one where you're adding, removing liquidity, but also potentially swapping with AMM DEX. And then a third interface for adding, removing liquidity and swapping with a concentrated liquidity DEX. So once we have these three schemas in Gateway 2.5, we can start to map them into the Hummingbot client and kind of creating kind of gateway classes that use these three different interfaces and strategies and scripts that will use the classes there. So that's still ongoing. In 2.5, we will have the gateway swap class done. So that means that if you can basically do a swap using this gateway swap class, and it should work on Jupiter, Radium, or Meteor because they will all have this swap interface. In the next release in 2.6, we'll add the interfaces for Gateway AMM and Gateway COMM that will allow you to interact with those connectors, and I think that will be the final kind of like ready state for community contribution and creating bounties to other gateway connectors using this new standard. Take a little longer than I think I initially envisioned, but I think we're getting there. And I think I'm pretty confident the finish line's in sight in terms of this gateway refactor. And I'm pretty confident that once we reach that point, it'll have a much more flexible interface for people to add connectors, but also to add interfaces for new types of DEX interactions. So I think a lending protocol that basically allows you to call kind of like lending based and adding withdrawing to a lending position is something that I can easily envision. Another thing we're excited about are improvements to the XRP connector. I'll mention that below because those are actually being funded by Bounty. From the Botcamp side, Botcamp is me working alongside partnership with XRPL. So that's why we've created Bounty to improve that connector. A new set of documentation in 2.5 will be a new connector guide to derive a decentralized spot and perpetual DEX that we added in the last release. So this character guide will show you exactly how to set up your wallet on Derive, how to basically navigate the DEX interface, and how to run a simple directional strategy to get you started on doing algo trading on their DEX. So let's move on. As a reminder, we've started to do weekly live streams every Friday on YouTube. Mostly Fede. I try to chip in sometimes as well. So for the last a few weeks, Fede has been finishing off the series on building a real AI-based trading strategy. So there's been a lot of FUD recently about AI this, AI that. But I think it's important if you really want to understand AI and how to use it in quant trading, you kind of like go into exactly what AI is and how to actually do it properly. So over a 5-course series in the live streams, I encourage you to check out parts 1 and 2 as well. Fede has been basically walking through how to use AI, how to basically generate signals using data, and then how to then use those signals in a trading strategy. That's probably a good segue into one thing I want to call out, which is with an ongoing project to build an AI-based support agent on the Hummingbot Discord. Our team of David and Fede have been doing a lot of testing already on a test channel. So you may see some more testing in the future around this, but we believe that having a bot that is helping answer common questions that people have around installing Hummingbot, the new V2 framework, and basically taking that and having a bot answer questions would be really helpful for the community. But also we want to try to incorporate the community into the process of improving this agent. So we have some plans to have people, perhaps score answers provided by the bot, and potentially even providing some rewards for doing so. We're quite excited about this because a good use of AI. We all know that people are asking the same questions. You could take the time to answer them, but it would be even better if there was some automated agent out there just answering all the newbie questions, but also keeping even the long-term members updated on maybe what's happening, recent features added, those kind of things that what I think is doing what I think AI should be doing, which is helping people save time and resources they can better use elsewhere. One note about Botcamp. Botcamp is the educational affiliate company that is focused on educating and training people in the Hummingbot community. We're starting cohort 11, starting in April 8th. This cohort, I think, we have a much more streamlined focus on teaching people both the technical and the business requirements they'll need to be a professional market maker. Part of that, I think, is enabled by the fact that the new V2 framework with the market making controller, the PositionsHeld feature, we have the new grid strike controller. These are really kind of more professional grade market making strategies. Fede's Twitter feed, but he's been posting some videos of him kind of like placing a ton of orders, generating a ton of volume. We kind of started with like very simple strategies like pure market making, but now it's kind of capable of placing high level orders and generating a lot of volume. Cohort 11 will focus on teaching people how to really use and also how to customize these new features and how to basically create professional grade market making strategies based on what they can conceive of based on the new framework. We're also going to try to focus on how to teach people how to deploy bots at scale. So let's say you're managing 3 clients, so and then so you're probably running more than 10 bots. So how do you manage that in a system that can actually scale beyond? And so even one person can manage 10, 20, even 100 different bots, using the kind of the tools that are available. We'll also try to kind of focus a bit more on the business side of things. I'm going to loop in one of the market makers that uses Hummingbot to come in and do an AMA at their business, and really kind of talk about like the real hard truth about what is it like to actually operate a market making business. How do you actually get clients? What are what are the risks involved, how do you actually kind of maintain the business in a bull market and a bear market. But overall, I think Cohort 11 is really kind of focused on people who want to learn market making from a professional standpoint. So we've already had a number of individuals as well as teams looking to sign up. So if you do want to sign up, let me know. And also, I think there's a Telegram chat here. You can also chat into if you want to just ask us questions, or if you want to pay in crypto, we can navigate through that process. So I want to give a sneak peek into something that will be launching soon. This is under the Botcamp umbrella, but we're excited to announce a partnership with XRP to launch an incentive program for people that are using Hummingbot to trade on XRPL. So the program, tentatively, I think not quite sure what the name is, but I think we're thinking of calling XRPliquid. There'll be a kind of a sign up process where you can kind of register, and then you'll earn rewards based on your trading activity on XRPL. Kind of like a new thing we're doing, but we're quite excited about it because I think that this will be a good way to to actually generate real organic volume on a real blockchain that I think is actually quite solid from a technical perspective, XRP, and especially now with the introduction of RLUSD, which is their own stable coin, which trades on both XRP and other central exchanges. I think there'll be many opportunities to use Hummingbot for arbitrage, pure market making, and exchange market making across XRPL. Basically to earn rewards while also generating more efficiency and organic liquidity. I want to give a shout out to Nikita, our Bounties manager, who is every month he kind of manages the open bounties. He kind of reviews the ones that are out there. He tells us when we should pay. So a number of bounties were paid recently. There were a couple of Bybit related issues that were fixed thanks to two community developers, USA Mike 25 and Tomas Gaudino. In addition, API update to the Bitmark connector that was fixed in 2.4 thanks to Bab Cockle. And then finally, thanks to Israeli 82, one of our longtime connector developers, for adding both the spot and the perpetual connectors for Derive to 2.4. So we've sent the payment out for you already, this one already. So thanks to all these community developers for working on Hummingbot bounties. And I think they were paid out, I think over thousands of dollars in bounties payments were paid out to them in the last couple of days. So there are no completed and pending bounties, but we do have some in progress bounties that are being worked on right now. In particular, I want to give a shout out to Wojak, or ML guys, developing the XRPL connector. He's working on some features to add AMM compatibility. So one of the core kind of differences with XRPL and other DEXs is that the order book, as well as the AMM, which is built into the blockchain. The connector actually needs to be updated because sometimes you might be trading and doing a market order, for example, on XRPL, but you're actually interacting with the AMM liquidity instead of with order book liquidity because you have a better price on the AMM. We've added a few bounties from the Botcamp standpoint to fund improvements to the XRPL connector. And so ML guys are working on them. And these are in preparation for the upcoming XRPliquid program, which we hope to basically create incentives for people to do both trading as well as liquidity provision on XRPL. We also have a DEX-a-lot candles feed, which is being added. I think we have one bounty which basically opened. Basically, there's this bounty will reward Alex for updating the Telegram API to the newest version, so that this basically replaces the deprecated, unsupported API integration that we had that we have removed. So thank you, Alex, for taking the initiative to work on that. And moving on, I'll kind of go over a few issues that the community has reported on our Discord. The Hummingbot Discord is the main water cooler for the global Hummingbot community. So we really recognize all the community members that pitch in and try to answer questions as well. highlight some common questions that people refer to every community call to give us community the sense for what else is what are the common issues that people are reporting. If they have similar questions, if they do, hopefully we can focus on them and try to answer them or add issues to the GitHub list to improve them. One thing people have said is that they're trying to learn to understand the dashboard, but it's too slow. Some users have reported performance issues with Docker Desktop, particularly with slow load times after 4.37. There are reports that 4.39 has fixes for this, but we still need to look for possible issues. So currently, if you are experiencing kind of slow load times in Docker, we recommend using Docker Desktop 4.737, which seems to be the most recent version. And there's actually a link here that you can access to download 3.7 specifically. So yeah, check your Docker Desktop version if you have issues like this, and see if downgrading or changing your version to 4.37 fixes that issue. Another common question we get is around installation on Windows 10. So unfortunately, because many applications these days are designed for Unix or Linux-based systems, the recommended approach has always been to kind of Hummingbot as a Docker container. On Windows, to run Docker containers, you first need to install something called WSL. Once you install WSL2, it allows you to run a Linux distribution, and then you just need to then get the Hummingbot image for that Linux distribution. This is unfortunately an unavoidable part of the process. In theory, we could take Hummingbot and redesign everything and make it work on a Windows system. In fact, we used to do this. We actually used to do this, I think, up until version like 1.5 or something like that. Kind of prevents Hummingbot from adding new things, because there's many things that are kind of Linux focused today, kind of like they're just unsupported. We kind of made the choice after that 1.5 or that version to not support Windows in that way, and only have Windows users use the Docker version if they need to. But if you want to run something from source, you'll need to run Hummingbot on a Unix-based environment. One of the common questions we get is one person says, I tried the example from one of your YouTube videos with Hype USDC, no error, but when I try another pair like BTC USD, I'm getting errors on Hyperliquid. In part, I think because of how the internal coding for pairs are structured in Hyperliquid API versus what they show on the front end. It seems like in Hyperliquid, the trading pair for BTC is actually UBTC instead of BTC. Ralph, I think, put some things you can do. You can use Hyperliquid as a rate oracle, and you can also change the global config, the global kind of token to USDC if you want to use that. I think so. These kind of things we actually may want to add them. If you're listening, like David or Ralph, I think the documentation would actually help. So I think especially about issues like this, because this is kind of like hard to like I would never know to do this if I didn't know how the API worked. So I think like for like this kind of note, I think it'd be a good call out to add to the documentation page for Hyperliquid. But this kind of thing is important. So let's move on to common GitHub issues reported by the community over the past month. One of the issues is running v2 strategies on Hyperliquid. I think this actually affects running v2 strategies on a number of connectors. So we're looking at a fix right now. Here's another two issues reporting getting last traded prices when running v2 strategies on DexLot and on Coinbase. We're looking at fixing it hopefully soon. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Carlito, who manages our community on Discord. He also kind of creates the governance process elections, does the Bounties payouts and so forth. We processed the Bounties payout for the 2.4 release recently. So thanks to everyone who got HBot for helping out with Discord. Finally, I also want to call out, I think we just created the nominations thread, 2025 Hummingbot Foundation Board of Directors. The Board of Directors is basically a volunteer organization of Hummingbot community members. Some of them own the HBot token. You don't need to own the token. The idea is that these people are the ones managing the multi-sig wallet that controls the Hummingbot Foundation treasury, as well as makes decisions about how the organization should be run, oversees the staff and the team. There's 5 people on the board. I'll also nominate and try to serve another term. One of my kind of like aspirations for this upcoming term is to have more involvement from other community members on the board of directors, so that we have a more active board overseeing things, but they're pushing for improvements to how the foundation works and trying to hopefully improve the utility and the value of the HBot token. I think the foundation is overall in a good place, because every year we've seen the sustainability of the foundation grow. The community's been growing, and also I think Hummingbot as a framework has been advancing from a technical perspective as well. That's pretty much it for the scheduled portion of the community call. I'll stay on the line for another 5 minutes or so in order to answer any questions the community has. Okay, here's one. Chris asks, I understand the issue Bybit failed to connect API keys is resolved already. The Bybit perp and the Bybit spot connector fixes were merged in for 2.4. And I think your other question was about, does that work for both terminal version and basic dashboard? I believe this should work for dashboard as well, because the dashboard uses the library. And so if the library was updated to 2.4, then it is. But you want to make sure that you're using the new version of the library. I think Chris also actually still trying to improve, which is how to make sure that we're updating Hummingbot on a release by release basis, but we're also keeping up to date all the kind of other modules that Hummingbot did. So there's dashboard, there's deploy, there's gateway, there's also Quants Lab, the backend API. This is actually one reason why we experimented last year with reducing the frequency of releases. That also I think didn't work, because there's many updates that we're making to the framework, and we want to make sure the community has access to those updates on an ongoing basis. The monthly release cycle is probably the ideal cadence for releases. And that's right. In Meteora, yeah, basically in 2.5, we have these endpoints. You can run 2.5 in dev mode. We saw the Uniswap connector, but then there's the Jupyter connector, Meteora, and we have Radium. And so you can see the interfaces for all the endpoints over here. So legacy endpoints like price and trade, but the new ones for swap, we call quote swap and execute swap. For CLMM connectors, they'll all have these kind of endpoints here, in addition to quote swap and execute swap. And then for AMM connectors will have these connectors here. So Radium is a good example of a connector that has both CLMM endpoints and AMM endpoints. Meteora currently only has the CLM clam. I think it's just called clam endpoints. But later on, because they also have a AMM API. I'll likely add the Meteora AMM as well. So I think this provides a decent template for adding any new connector. So hopefully after interfaces for these and sample strategies that are coming in this version and next version, then people can start adding both strategies to take advantage of these connectors, but also new connectors as well that fit this model. Maybe the pump.fun AMM or and also adding pancake swap. I think is an important connector to add on the BAC side. But I think people can really start adding, mixing and matching both strategies and connectors. I think it's a very productive few months for us at Hummingbot. We've been making a lot of technical improvements to the framework, and overall we're excited to showcase them in our live streams, to teach them in our Botcamp cohorts, and also launch innovative programs like XRPliquid in order to promote the usage of Hummingbot. Taigaba asks, is there a way to run Gateway in dev mode and the Hummingbot client in dev mode, or any way to use the Gateway web API while the client can also connect? What I'm running right now here is Gateway in dev mode, which is new in Gateway 2.5. This basically allows you to interact with the endpoints as if just directly. Basically, I could actually add a private key here, and click this endpoint, and I'll add a wallet that I can then use. And then similarly for here, if I want to execute a swap, this wallet address is pre-populated. But I've been testing it. I don't use Postman anymore. I just use this. Hummingbot, at least right now, is only designed to connect to a certified gateway. I do think it's possible to remove that in Hummingbot, where we could just basically kind of like, allow people to have an option to connect with uncertified gateway. But it's not super high on my priority list right now. It can be, but I think it's more like, I think that to me it's important to have a dev mode to interact with gateway on a standalone basis. Essentially, what we're saying, we're kind of taking an opinion stance with Hummingbot and gateway. We're saying, use this in dev mode if you're just doing development. But if you're using gateway in a production use case, as in you're using it with Hummingbot and you're having, you're explicitly exposing a port where people can do trades using a wallet that you've saved, then that port, communication with that open port should be encrypted. That's why in testing mode, I'm still using Postman to test the kind of like the encrypted endpoints. I think I will create a Postman collection with the new endpoints so people can test it more easily. I think that's probably the workaround for now. However, multiple people in the community are saying it's important to allow for unencrypted communications between the client and gateway. I think it'd be fairly easy to. So also the new structure, every connector essentially is going to define their own routes. So that's why there's actually separate routes for these, even though they have the same interface. But that's because the logic behind these are actually quite unique. What I expect is that if you're adding a new connector, you're responsible for implementing all the logic necessary, adding tests that test edge cases, in case like someone doesn't add, it doesn't put in the right amounts or doesn't add the basic core tokens into these routes. However, the route should always accept the same set of responses, which are these endpoints, and it should also return the same set of endpoints. I think that the wraps the community call for this month. See you again next month. Thanks, everyone.